Okay, everybody, I'm back. I am Miss Ava Hart, and this is part two of my introduction. It is the personal side of Miss Ava Hart. All right, and both of these videos are recorded or were recorded at 3:13. It is now 3:13 p.m. Saturday, September 5th. I'm gonna have to look up that number 3:13 because I see that number a lot. All right. So it is September 5th, a Saturday, 3:13 p.m. This is part two of my introduction, and now this is the personal side. And as you can see, I'm a storyteller. Why else would I major in English? Because I love to read and I love to hear stories and read stories and tell stories about my life. I think the best gift that you can give anybody is when you tell them your story, because you don't know how your story will impact and change a person's life. All right, so let's get to the personal side of Miss Averhart. So I am Miss Averhart. I'm your professional instructor for the 2020-2021 school year. And as you know, we are virtual. We are virtual. And I'll talk about that at the end about this virtual experience. Okay, so I was born January 4th, 1975, which makes me 45 years old. All right, so January 4th, 1975, I came into the world. For the first 3 years of my life, I was in foster care. My mother was waffling back and forth. She was so undecided about whether or not she wanted to keep me. So in my biological family, there's only two of us. It is me, I am the youngest, and I have an older sister. And my sister and I, we have different fathers, but same mothers, different fathers. So my mother was married to my sister's father, and yeah, she was cheating with my dad, okay? And my dad was married. So here I come in the picture, you have yeah. But I was given my sister's father's last name. All right, so finally at the age of 3, I was adopted. So if you were to look at my original birth certificate, it would be Tia Deshay Hood. Tia Deshay Hood. And when I was adopted, my adoptive family changed my name to Deandra Adrian Averhart. So that's why you know me as Miss Averhart, because that is my legal name. That's the name I go by. That's my government name, okay? Um, but my pen name as an author is Tia Deshay. My LLC is under Tia Deshay, because that's me. Like, that is Tia Deshay is me. And I felt like this is a way to honor that part of me, and also to give honor to my mother, my biological mother. So at any given time, if you were ever around me, you will hear people call me by different names, but those are actually my name. Like, and I was even thinking about at one time changing my name back to my original name. Um, but yeah, that part. So at 3 years old, I was adopted by the Averhart family. So I have two families. I have biological and I have adoptive, and I know both sets. I discovered I met my adoptive family in I think it was 94. No, it wasn't. It was like in 97, because it was a year before I graduated from Eastern Michigan University is when I met my adoptive family for the first time. And we've known each other ever since. We are a part of each other's lives. Um In my adoptive family, there are 6 of us. There are 4 boys and 2 girls. Yeah, so I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. So I probably was knocking on some of your parents and grandparents' doors. Okay, as a child, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and I was what you would call a preacher's kid. In the Jehovah's Witness, the pastor is called an elder, and my father was an elder, so technically I am a preacher's kid. And I did not have any issues with being a Jehovah Witness. I didn't care. I didn't have issues about knocking on people's doors and seeing my classmates, open the door. I didn't care that I didn't celebrate Christmas or holidays or birthdays. None of that it never fazed me. I didn't care. I don't look back on my life, my childhood, and say, oh, I missed out because I couldn't celebrate my birthday and I couldn't celebrate Christmas. Because as I've gotten older, and I really understand Christmas and all of that, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't get involved in that. But I respect people who do. Like, obviously, in my biological family, they weren't raised as Jehovah Witness. They weren't raised as Jehovah Witnesses, so it's a big thing, for them at Christmas, and I honor that. I respect that, and that part. So, around eighth or ninth grade is when I found out that I was adopted. And it changed the dynamic of my life, and it changed the dynamic of my home life. And it was a lot of contention and conflict in the family, particularly with my mother. To this day, I'm not really sure why that happened, why I decided to express my anger toward my mother, my adopted mother, but I did once I found out that I was adopted. So I was like, it was just challenging, and it was just a lot of contention in the home, um, between me and my mother, and it got so bad that in 12th grade, um, I had a Dr. Maya Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou moment, um, that she described, and I know why the cage bird sings. That I literally stopped talking at home my entire senior year. That's how difficult of time I was having with processing the fact that all this time, I thought this was really my family, and then to find out that I was adopted. And there were other issues going on in the home as well, as far as me. There was abuse in the home. So coupled with the abuse and finding out that I was adopted, it was just a lot to process, as a teenager. So 12th grade, by the time 12th grade hit, I just shut down. So I didn't talk at home. Like, when I came home, I didn't utter a word. For my entire senior year, I didn't talk. Like, I had nothing to say because it was nothing left to say. I just got tired of arguing with my mother and going back and forth. I just got tired, so I just stopped talking. So, the last day of school, my senior year, I had a co-op job. Ironically, I worked for Detroit Public Schools. I worked in the purchasing department as a co-op student. And on the last day of school, as a senior at Cass Tech, um, I went to work. It was just, it was a normal day. I was done. I was done. I was, finished with high school. My mother calls the job, and she tells me that I wasn't coming home. She said, "You're not coming home." She said, "Here's the number and the name of a runaway shelter in Royal Oak, Michigan. I believe it's still there. I'm not sure." And she said, they're expecting you. So she had already planned all of this. She said, "They're expecting you. They already know who you are." And I was like, okay. So here I am, 16 years old. That morning, I had left my home on the west side of Detroit, off of West 7 Mile, and that evening, and I had no idea that I was not returning back. Well, I take that back. I'll take that back. Growing up as a Jehovah Witness, we used to go to midweek Bible study on Wednesdays. And I remember leaving. I actually used to attend the Kingdom Hall on Evergreen, right behind, right off of Evergreen, like a couple of blocks from Henry Ford High School. I helped build that building. Like, if you don't know about Jehovah's Witnesses, when they build Kingdom Halls, they do it literally in one weekend. And I helped my father and other people build that Kingdom Hall. Like, I was there when it was just a piece of land and it actually became a building. Like, I was there every single day that weekend helping my father take what was just a piece of land, and by Sunday it was a whole building. So that's where I attended, that Kingdom Hall. And I remember on a Wednesday, um I was walking through the back door of the Kingdom Hall into the parking lot, and I remember clearly I heard the voice, I believe, of God saying that this is the last time you will ever be in this building. And I didn't even look back. Like, as I was crossing the threshold to walk out the door, I remember hearing that. So I can't say that I was surprised when my mother called and said that don't come home. And before that, I had a calendar in my room and I was marking X's on the calendar. And I don't even know why I was doing that. Well, I knew then when my mother made the phone call and told me not to come home. But at the time, I didn't know why I was marking X's. And even my father noticed it when he came into my room one day. He was like, "Why are you marking X's on the calendar?" And I honestly didn't know. Like, I was like, "I don't know." But at the time, I didn't even know that I was tapping into a gift, a prophetic gift, that I could sense the future. But I didn't make that connection then. That was much later that I realized, oh my God, I was, using that gift then, but didn't even know. So I should say that it wasn't a surprise when my mother called and said, um, don't come back home. Like, intuitively, I knew. I just didn't know that I knew that. I just didn't know that that's what I was knowing, that I was not gonna go back home. So here I am, 16 years old. She gave me the directions to this place. She told me how to get there on the bus. So after work, I go there. Um, they take me. Um, my brother, he comes and drops off a suitcase full of clothes and my stuff for me. And they couldn't keep me unless my parents signed away their parental rights. And so they did, because my mother, they really did try to talk to my parents and get them to take me back home or whatever. But my parents were just adamant, like, no, she's not coming back. She's just been too much trouble. And to be quite frank with you, when I look back on it, the most I ever did in high school was I skipped school. In junior year, like one semester of junior year, I skipped so much that the school called my mother and they put me on probation. And if I didn't get it together, like if I missed any more school or if they found out that I was skipping, I was gonna get kicked out of Cass Tech. Like, literally, that's all I did. Besides going back and forth with my mama, when I got home with us, basically not yelling, but just arguing back and forth. Um, that was it. And I mean, and lying about it, and not telling them that I'm skipping school. That is literally what I did. I was not having sex. I was still a virgin at the time. I was not doing drugs. So that was it. That was literally what I was doing, that my mother just couldn't take anymore. It was probably just us arguing all the time that she couldn't take. Literally, that's all I did. So, and I had like a boyfriend that they didn't know about. That was it. So that's why the place that I went to in Royal Oak was really like, we got kids in here who done way worse than your daughter. Like, she ain't stealing cars. She's not like beating up on people. She ain't pulling weapons out on people. Like, she don't graduated from high school. That's why they were really looking like, what? Like, you can go at, like, why can't you just work this out and take her back home? But my parents were very adamant of not allowing me back in the home, so they signed away their parental rights, and I became a ward of the court, ward of the state, at 16 years old in the summer of 1992. So I didn't go to prom. I didn't go to graduation because I was being transported to different um, juvenile facilities. So once my parents signed away their parental rights, the place at Royal Oak transferred me to Vista Maria, and that still exists. Vista Maria is an all girls home in West Warren. It's like right on the edge of Detroit and Redford. So here I am, 16 years old. Um, Pretty much lived a shelter life. I mean, up until the point that I found out that I was adopted, and up until the point where the abuse occurred with me, I lived a pretty good life. I lived in a two-parent home, middle class home. My father worked. My mother was a stay-at-home mother. Like, never experienced the lights being cut off. Never experienced being evicted. None of that. Like, food was always on the table. I ate 3 meals a day. I didn't wear name brand clothes, but I wasn't out here looking bummy. Um, had running water, lived in a nice home. Like, my home was pretty. I lived in a nice home, nice in a nice neighborhood. Like, I know nothing about no drug houses, trap houses. My adopted parents weren't on drugs, none of that. Like, up until I realized I was adopted, up until I was told that I was adopted, and up until the abuse occurred, everything was quote unquote normal. So at 16, I was at Vista Maria All Girls Home, and if you've never been there, to me, it's like that was my version of jail. Because I shared a room with another girl. We couldn't have anything in the room at all, nothing except our clothes. That was it. We couldn't have nothing in the room except our clothes, nothing. And in order to move up and to gain privileges, you had to do your chores and you had to attend group therapy. So I moved up real quickly. Um, like, I moved up real fast because I just was just like, I'm not staying up in this joint. Absolutely not. Like, you're not regulating my life like this. Um, so it was one black woman there. Her name was Tanya. Remember that name because she's important in the story. Her name was Tanya. She was the only black counselor there that I recall, and she took me under her wing. And basically, she was a social worker. So of course, she had to keep a file and do, interview my parents, and she just looked, based on the information that she collected, she was like, you don't belong here. She was like, you do not belong here. Not at all. And she really took me under her wing to make sure that I got out of there as soon as possible. So I think I was only there a couple of weeks, and I, moved up really quick through the ranks. I was able to leave during the day and go to work because my co-op job, they kept me. Because if at the time, if you got a co-op job through Detroit Public Schools, sometimes the employer would keep you until the fall. They will let you work that summer. Even after you graduated, they will let you work that summer um, until the new school year started. And then you would have to go and find another job or whatever. So they kept me, and I was able to work there. So I was given a pass to go work at Vista Maria. I mean, I'm sorry, to go work, where I was working at for a co-op job. And I think I was only maybe at Vista Maria, the girls part, or the more structured part, for a month, and then I transferred to their independent living program that is located on Virgil Street. It is now DLA. That used to be the independent living program for Vista Maria. It used to be an old convent for nuns. And I was there. I used to live there. If you went upstairs in that building that's right there on the 96 Service Drive, it was rooms upstairs, and it was like five other girls. I think it was maybe six of us all together, and we each had our own room, and we had all been in the system. We were all water estates, water the courts, for different periods of time, and each of us had been through different facilities, and we transitioned into the independent living program to prepare us to live on our own. So it's funny that it's a school now, but I was actually living there under the Vista Maria program, transitioning into independent living. So there is where I met Lois, my mentor Lois. She is still my mentor to this day. She's actually like an extended family. I became really close to her family. Like they consider me, she considers me one of her daughters, and I have sisters and brothers in that family. So I really have like three families. But that's where I met my mentor, Lois Cobb. She was a counselor at the time. And she was another one, just like Tanya. She was another one who was like, um, it's just something about you, you know, something about you. And growing up as a Jehovah Witnesses were not allowed to attend college. So I went 4 years of high school, did not apply to one college, did not apply for any scholarships, did not take the ACT, SAT, because I wasn't going to college. That was against my religion to go to college. So here I am. I'm graduated from high school. It is now the fall of because I moved to the independent living program of Vista Maria, which is now DLA. I moved there in the summer of 1992. Now, mind you, like I said, I didn't go to prom, I didn't go to graduation, none of that. The only thing I'm doing, I'm still working. I still have my co-op job. So Lois looks at me and she was like, you're not going to be satisfied with a job. You need a career. So we're going to get you in school. So she had all kind of connects and plugs with Wayne State University. I applied to Wayne State University. I was able to get my transcripts from CAS. And all I had to do was take the ACT. I think at the time, in order to be accepted at Wayne State University, their undergraduate program, you needed a 17 on your ACT. So I started studying for my ACT, and I took my ACT and I scored a 19 the first time out. Now, mind you, if I had taken my ACT while I was still in high school, more than likely I would have scored a 21 and all of my tuition would have been paid for. But the good thing about it was, because I was a ward of the court, I was eligible for a lot of Pell Grants and grants. If I had stayed at Wayne State University, I would not have acquired the student loan debt that I have now. Because literally, because I was a ward of the state, a ward of the court, I was given enough money to attend Wayne State University undergraduate. I was given enough money. That I was given enough money not only to pay for my tuition, but I was able to get a refund. After all my classes were paid for, then the university gave me money back. So, that was one advantage of being a ward of the court, that you received a lot of government grants and funding to go to college. And you didn't have, and you didn't have to take out loans. Like, you got a lot of grants that you didn't have to pay back. So, Lois looked at me and she was like, yeah, we need to get you into college because you're not going to be happy with a career. And I'm so thankful that she saw that in me. She saw in me what I didn't see in myself. And so I ended up I enrolled in Wayne State University in January of 1993. Yep, January of 1993 is when I became a student at Wayne State University. I was still living at Vista Maria in the independent living program while I was a student at Wayne State University. And eventually I transitioned out of there and I got my own apartment. And if you are a ward of the court, you know that you get money every month. They pay you per day for being a ward of the court. So I got a check every month, and that's how I was able to pay my rent. And the rest of the money, the rest of my expenses, I paid through the work study job that I acquired through the university. So basically that's it. I experienced a lot of challenges because I never really dealt with the fact of the situation that occurred at home with the abuse, with my parents kicking me out the house at 16, having to practically be an adult at 16 years of age, having my own apartment, paying bills, paying rent, going to school full time, like it was a lot to handle. And because I was only 16 and before that everything was taken care of for me, I was naive to a lot of stuff going on in the world. So people took advantage of me in more ways than one. I went through a lot of heartache with different guys and relationships because I was just naive. Like here I am 16 and I'm trying to figure this thing out. 16 in college, and because I graduated when I was 16 years old because I was double promoted. So, here, imagine being 16 and you basically are an adult. You paying your own rent, you paying light bill, you paying a phone bill. It was before cell phones and all that. And then I'm still trying to go to school full time and do my homework and still be a college student and still have fun and all that other stuff. So obviously at Wayne State, it only lasted like 2 years, and I ended up transferring to Eastern Michigan University, living in the dorms, which was much better for me. Because then I didn't have to worry about rent and that expense and trying to pay rent and trying to pay the phone bill and trying to pay the light bill. So living in the dorm really took a lot of stress off of my shoulders. And I mean, yes, I cured a lot of student loan debt because now I had to pay for housing, but to me, it was worth it because I was able to get the true college experience of living on campus. And I didn't have to worry about the lights being cut off and not having a phone and all that other stuff. So, but I went through it. I went through it. I went through it because, like I said, I'm 16 years old and I'm trying to figure this thing out. Um, so after that, I already told you about me going to, after I graduated and I ended up becoming a teacher and all of that. So I say all that to say, um, those experiences made me stronger. Those experiences, um, made me not give excuses. I'm not one for excuses. No matter who you are in my life, I don't take your excuses. Because when I look back on my life and what I've been through, and the challenges and obstacles that I've overcome, like I know it's possible. I don't care who you are or what you've been through, I know it's possible. I know that it's possible to overcome whatever challenges are presented to you if you have the right mindset. I'm thankful that I encountered Lois as a mentor at Vista Maria's independent living program, because education literally saved my life. If she had not said, no, we're going to get you into school, into college, I don't know where I would have been. I don't know what road I would have taken. Would I have used drugs and been a crackhead and just been, addicted and just, just out there? I probably, because education kept me focused. Education, I had a goal that I needed to attain, and that was to graduate from college. That kept me moving. It kept me going. Even though when I was bumping my head, as far as, learning how to budget my money, or even when I was bumping my head and dealing with these knucklehead dudes who didn't care nothing about me, education gave me a reason to keep going when I didn't want to keep going. When I didn't have money for rent, or I was barely, because the money, the check that I was getting because I was a ward of the court, that still wasn't enough to pay rent. I still had to come up with maybe another $100 or so with that. So education was always like what anchored me and kept me going. Without education, I know I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. So I look at the debt, the student loan debt that I acquired, it was worth it because it kept me alive. And because it kept me alive, because going to school, going to college, and going to class every day kept me alive, I was able to become a teacher, and then I was able to influence generations. And they were able to look at me and see my story and see themselves in me and know that no matter what life throws at you, you got this. I mean, even as an educator, I can't even tell you how many students' funerals I've been to. I have students now that I'm still in contact with, and we're like family. I'm like their aunt. You know what I'm saying? I'm like their big sister. I now babysit their kids. I'm now a godmommy to their children. But what if I had given up? What if it had got so hard? It had gotten so hard that I was like, just forget this. I ain't got time for this. And I had given up. I wouldn't have been able to impact the people that I've impacted. What if I had just bent over and just cried and, oh my God, I was adopted and my mama didn't love me, and my dad, my biological father, he been in jail all of my life, until recently. Like now, here I am, a whole 45-year-old woman, and he's finally out of jail now. You know what I'm saying? And has made no impacts on my life. What would have happened if I had to just let that consume me and cry and make excuses about it? My biological mother, Essie Mae Leonard Lockett, she passed away in 2009. What if I had just fell on out and stopped living because now she's dead, and now I can't get my questions answered, and I really don't know why she gave me up for adoption because we never had that conversation. And what if I had just let that consume me and just say, oh, I'm just tired, and oh, I just can't go on, and what if I had to use that as an excuse to be mean to people and to cuss people out and just, and just flip people off? I didn't. I didn't. I realized, okay, maybe I should go get help for that. Maybe I should go sit in front of a counselor. And I did. And I still do to this day. Like, I'm a big person on mental health. And you'll see that in the video that I recorded about when I tell you about the syllabus for this class. I'm an advocate for Black people getting their minds right. Like, enough of the excuses of, oh, your daddy died or your mama died or your grandma died, and so you use that as an excuse to be mean to people and to cuss people out and to yell and scream and to throw temper tantrums. Like, you attend a Detroit public school that offers you free mental health care. Use it. Because in the world that we live in now in 2020, we already see it. We see this. We see this. That people don't care that your mama died. People don't care that your daddy died. People don't care that your grandma died. You talking flip, they shooting you point blank, live in a living color in broad daylight. They putting a bullet in your head, whether it's a police officer or just somebody random on the street, because everybody got their own problems. And they're not here to deal with your problems plus theirs. And I had to come to that realization. Like, I can't be popping off at people and cussing at people and yelling and screaming at people because my mama died. And my daddy was in jail for most of my life. Like, no, I need to figure that out. I need to work through that. I need to come to terms with that and be at peace with that part of my life. Because it's not somebody else's fault that that's what happened to me. And that's why I don't take excuses too well, because anything that you tell me, I've been there, done that. If you're being abused, been there, done that. Lights get cut off. Once I graduated, once I left the home at 16, lights cut off plenty of times. I don't have lights cut off, and I had 3 degrees under my belt. Because from 2013 to 2015, when I lived in Atlanta, that was hell for me. I don't even need to go to hell after I die. If that's where I was going, I've already been there. I've already been to hell. So there's no hell in my mind. There's no hell for me after I die, because I've already been to hell when I lived in Atlanta from 2013 to 2015. Because I was a whole grown woman making $7.25 an hour. That was minimum wage in Georgia at the time. So and before I could even secure that job, making $7.25 an hour, I was homeless. So it's nothing that you can tell me that I would be surprised by, because I've already experienced it. The only thing is that I just wasn't addicted to drugs. My mother, my biological mother, according to my biological father, she did drugs. She did heroin. And then she stopped that. And from when I met her, she was a functioning alcoholic. Like, she stopped drinking just enough to go to work for 8 hours, and then she come home and drink. So it's nothing that you can tell me that I would be surprised by or that I haven't lived through. That's why I'm not for the excuses, because I know that, yes, those things were occurring in my life, but there were people there to help me go through those experiences. And just because I was going through those experiences, it did not justify me popping off at people and cussing people out and yelling and screaming and telling people. And I'm going to say this in the context of this video because I've experienced this, particularly within the last school year, 2019 and 2020 at Mumford High School. I've experienced this, where students are just telling me, shut the fuck up talking to me. What? Like, I grew up in the city of Detroit. I was born in 1975, so I know about this, Young Boys Incorporated and 7 Mile Dogs and all of that. Like, no, like, where is that okay to say? And bro, who the fuck you talking to? Like, where's that okay to say? Where is it okay to say that? Like, where I grew up, that would be a bullet in your head. You would be missing off the map. But this is the generation that I'm now engaging with, because there's so much anger, because of what adults have done or haven't done or did do, or because, grandma's no longer here and you loved grandma, and since grandma's gone, you're bouncing from house to house. That's not okay. And I'm here to stand before you to say that's not okay, that I've been through what you've been through, but I don't use that as an excuse to just talk slick to people and to be blatantly disrespectful to people. I used it as a stepping stone to be a better version of me. And that's why I share my story, so that you can learn from it. Look at the lessons that you can learn from me. Like, that's not okay. That we hold in all this anger and then we pop off at people. Like, the level of disrespect afforded to teachers in education in 2020, or within the past year, or just period before 2020, was just ridiculous. And that's not okay. Especially when you are in a public school system that gives you free mental health care to help you work through and sort out those issues. That is why I tell my story. Because I have to hold myself accountable. I can't be popping off at people because of the cards that life handed me. I had to learn how to play them cards and play to win. So that's why I share my story. Like, because it's just, I don't tolerate excuses. Because there's just too much out here for us to get our minds right as Black people. And for us to be the best version of ourselves. And even though, with the pandemic and well, what's going on, this has truly been a blessing for me. It's been a blessing because to be able to work from home and to teach from home, because unless you're a teacher, um the things that we hear and encounter on an everyday basis, it will blow your mind. Like, just the profanity alone that comes out. I mean, this past year alone, the profanity that I encountered from ninth graders that are now 10th graders blew my mind. I'm like, you all are cussing like you don't live a life worthy, that you all are cussing like you got something to cuss for. Like, the words that would come, that would come out of the ninth graders' mouths was ridiculous. And I wish I had a video recorded it so people could hear it. And the level of disrespect was just amazing to me. Like, who really is raising you? And that's okay that you're talking to an adult like this and not understanding that the streets ain't going to allow that, because you're dealing with somebody who got just as many issues as you do, and they will just put a bullet in your head. And so it's just amazing to me, before we had the pandemic, what I was encountering on an everyday basis. Like, it was amazing to me. And I was so thankful, because I don't look at things how the media tells me to look at things. I don't go into fear. I looked at this experience in this pandemic when we went on shutdown March 13th, 2020, when Michigan went on quote unquote shutdown. I got quiet and I said to myself, God, ancestors, tell me what I'm supposed to really see here. I don't want to see what the news tells me to see. What am I supposed to be learning from this experience? And I learned a lot about myself. But I also learned, I think the world learned that it was like finally teachers got their props, because now parents realize it ain't no joke. Trying to teach your kids virtual teaching, unless that's your gift, unless you went to school for that, it wasn't no joke, was it? It was hard. But now you had a newfound appreciation of teachers, because now The school is no longer responsible for your child for almost 8, 9, 10 hours out the day. Now you are. Now everybody is at home having to look at everybody and deal with everybody. At least you got a reprieve for 8 hours out the day when you went to school. There was no reprieve for those 4 or 5 months that we were on lockdown. And people looked at teachers in a whole new light, as you should have. As you should have. And I don't bite my tongue in saying this, as you should have. Because now you really understand what teachers were dealing with. And could you imagine? I mean, I know you love your children. I'm sure students, your parents love you or whoever's taking care of you. But can you imagine 35 of you in one classroom? Like I'm being facetious, but people really got a taste of what teachers deal with. They got a good taste of it. And I'm glad that they did. Because we all needed that experience to really understand, like, this ain't no joke. No, it ain't no joke. Being a teacher ain't no joke. And it is a gift. People think that, oh, because I help you with your homework, that's teaching. It is not. Because imagine dealing with 35 different personalities, 5 hours out the day, and you have to keep their attention and tell them about Shakespeare. And they looking at you like, what does Shakespeare have to do with my everyday life? But you have to engage 35 students 5 times out the day. And on top of that, you're still dealing with behavior problems because you don't know if Johnny woke up on the wrong side of the bed and Johnny want to pop off at you because you just told Johnny to get off the phone and pay attention because you want Johnny to be smart. You want Johnny to be smart and be the best Johnny he could be. Excuse me. And you're telling Johnny to get off the phone. And Johnny is popping off at you telling you, bro, why you talking to me? And they ain't saying it like that. They using some cuss words like I just used maybe 5 minutes ago in this video. And so a lot of parents all over the world got a glimpse of that during this pandemic, during the shutdown. And I don't feel any kind of way. I don't feel sorry. I do not. Because I think the world needed to have that experience to get a new fresh perspective of what teachers deal with on an everyday basis. And that we are truly underpaid for what we do. And that's what it is. So that's my story. That's how I feel about this whole virtual thing, this whole pandemic thing. I am thankful that I was given the choice and the opportunity to teach from home. Um, I love it. I love every minute of it because I'm in my element and I can create the space and the energy. And it's just a different feel in my own home doing this because I don't have to deal with the attitudes and, I don't have to deal with that. I can, you can learn without all the interruptions, without worrying about who said this about who and who fought who and who gonna fight who and did you see this on Instagram and airdropping videos and all the nonsense and the foolishness that goes along with being in a building. Like all of that is cut out and you can actually you can actually learn without all of that extra foolishness. Like without all that extra stuff. And so to me, this is going to be an amazing experience. An amazing experience. And I share my story to let you know I'm not here for the excuses. And it's not that I don't care. It's not that I have a cold heart. It's because every day when I look in the mirror and I breathe and I take another breath, I'm reminded that excuses doesn't serve you. Excuses don't make you a better person. What makes you a better person is dealing with those obstacles, learning how to bob and weave those punches and those uppercuts. And even if you don't bob and weave fast enough and you get some scars, they're scars. They heal. But you still here, you still standing. And it didn't break you. And that is why I share my story, because it didn't break me. And I'm not going to allow you to give yourself permission to allow your experiences to break you. I'm not going to allow you to give yourself permission to allow your experiences and your obstacles to break you. You can have your moment. Have your moment. Cry, scream, yell, do whatever, have your moment. But don't let that moment have you. You get up, you get the help that you need. If you need to talk to a counselor or a social worker and work through those issues, you do that and you show up for another day. Because when you come up into Miss Averhart's classroom, you're going to go hard or you're not going to come at all. Because I am a living testimony that your environment and your circumstances don't define you. And remember Tanya, and I'm going to leave it here because my battery is low on my computer. But you remember Tanya, the counselor that I met when I was at Vista Maria? Well, Tanya is now a social worker with Detroit Public Schools Community District. And she was a social worker at Cody. And she walked past me one day when I was in the hallway, and I looked at her and I said, I know you. And she looked at me like, you do? Where do you know me from? And I said, your name is Tanya. And you were my counselor at Vista Maria. You were the only black woman. You were the only black counselor there, black woman counselor there. And I remember you because you saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at that time. And you took me under your wing and you made sure that I didn't get stuck in that experience. And I said, I'm so thankful for you. And I said, look how the universe works. Our paths cross. Here I am, a whole teacher because of you. Because of you, I am a teacher. And now I'm able to influence generations because you influenced me. When you looked at me, you saw you in me. You didn't treat me like a catty black woman and like, oh, look at her and why she got that on. And you didn't treat me like that. You didn't talk about me and be petty about it and all of that. You didn't do that. When you saw me, you saw yourself and you embraced me. And you made sure that I was prepared to go to the next level. And I'm standing in the hallway at Cody High School on the second floor crying. Like I was that little 16-year-old girl at Vista Maria because that's the impact that Tanya made on my life. And she was just like, wow. And I was like, wow, too. And I was so thankful that I could thank her in person and I could give her her flowers while she's still alive. And it is because of Tanya I do what I do. And it's because of many other Tanyas that I've encountered in my life that I do what I do and why I don't take excuses. And so on that note, I end and be prepared for the questions that will follow this video. We are going to have a productive and amazing year. I don't care whether we are not face to face. I've already called it. It is going to be productive. It is going to be amazing. And by the time we leave each other's presence, whether it's virtually or face to face, we will be different people and we will be better for it. And you will go out and you will change the world. And hopefully, I will be, as Tanya was in my life, I will be a Tanya for you. All right. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.